Hey everybody, it's your boy Chris Crowley with From Fatty to Natty Bodybuilder. Thank you for joining us today. It is episode 8. Enjoy.
Things on the stage got the whole crowd bouncing. Talking about the king of kings of moves, mountain mover. I know you see him.
Good morning everybody, it's your boy Chris Crowley with From Fatty to Natty Bodybuilder. This is episode 8. I got a real exciting show today. It's an honor to have the man, the legend, Rob Goodwin on board today from Ketogenic Bodybuilding, who I am very happy to be one of his clients. And Rob, before we begin, I just want to take this real quick second to thank you. Just the stuff that you have on the Ketogenic Bodybuilding Facebook group and just on your website, the stuff you share with people was enough to really change my life around for the better just from a couple of years back. When I came across your page, I was probably pushing 260 and wow. Being just a cheap, stingy bastard, I was like, well, I'll just find the free shit. And just in that alone, I got down to 169 in my 40s. Best shape of my life. I have you to thank for that. So I just wanted to take that second to thank you for all that you do for the people that are trying to make themselves better.
Well, man, that's way too kind, and I really appreciate it. I mean, why do we get up and do this every day? Because, if you're not doing this because you like serving others, then you're in it for the wrong reasons. And the longevity factor never pans out unless you're doing it for the right reasons. And I've been doing this for 27 years. So, we're two old men, two grumpy old men here today, but we're both a testament to what you can do even later in life. And I think the thing that really spoke to me about you is I don't get that many opportunities to work with somebody who, someone in their 40s that is jumping in this to the fresh for the first time. I mean, I've worked with people that have kind of been in and out of the industry, in and out of the lifestyle for decades. Now they're coming back into it, and a bucket list thing is maybe to do a competition or be in their best shape ever. But it's very rare that you get people like you that just come into this with a clean slate and say, "Fuck it, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to kick ass at it." And I'll be honest with you, and because you have to understand, when you've been doing this as long as I have, unfortunately, if you get 20 people that says I'm going to do this, one or two of them will actually follow through and do it. I'd love to see all 20, but that's just not the way the world is. So, I always have a little bit of trepidation with somebody comes in that late, into the lifestyle and says, I'm going to compete. And then I'm thinking to myself, you have no idea what you're getting yourself into. And I try to express what you're about to get into. And sometimes until you experience it on your own, you never quite understand what it's like to truly suffer for something so valuable. And you did it, you killed it. I mean, it was one of those deals where I would literally call my wife in and to the computer and say, hey, check out this progress pic. This guy's the real deal. He's got the mindset. He's going to do this. And, you remember contest day, man. I think we texted back and forth about 100 times that day.
Oh, easily.
And it was, I was like, so stressed out all freaking day. I didn't get shit done. I was supposed to be doing yard work that day. I didn't get anything done. My focus was off. I just kept checking my phone. And then, you did amazing, and I couldn't be any more proud. And I'm glad we've established a relationship even beyond training, and are becoming friends and colleagues. So I'm just honored to be a part of it.
Oh, well, thank you. I really, really appreciate that. For sure, that particular show, to kind of give some context, so I met that guy. I put it in episode 1. I met a guy by the name of Dave Bowers, who is an NPC promoter in Indianapolis. I met him in Detroit. I can't remember what year, but just for the sake of argument, maybe 2016 or 2017. And I was like, I've always loved bodybuilding. I think it's a beautiful art. I think the body is one of the most beautiful art forms to work with. And I mean, come on, you look at people like Arnold Schwarzenegger, one of your favorites, Dorian Yates, one of my favorites, Lee Labrada, and just the composition of their bodies. I was like, you know what, I want to do this. And after meeting him, I was like, I'm going to do it. And then, so when I did that show the year before, the Mr. Cleveland, just off of, doing the ketogenic diet and everything else, and did well. But then I said, okay, that's it. I'm going to put my quote unquote, I'm going to put my balls on the table and I'm going to do Dave's show. And I was like, well, if I'm going to do all of this and I'm going to go all the way down to Indianapolis, from Cleveland to Indianapolis, that's about a 4.5, 5-hour drive. I need to really put forth every best foot forward I could. And then I was like, that's it. I have to do this. I have to get a coach. And it was just, phenomenal. And then going down there, it was a real life-changing moment. And I don't regret it for the world. I mean, at all. And I didn't place as well as I wanted to, but that's okay because, well, hell, the only person that loses is the person who ain't showing up.
Yep.
So, you know what I mean? Well, gosh, you said you've been doing this for some 20-some plus years. Could you give us a lot of people already know who you are, but could you give us a quick bio of what you do and everything?
Yeah, I'm going to try to wrap up nearly 3 decades in just a minute or two here, but I've told the story many times, and I fell into the bodybuilding universe by chance. I was working a dead-end nowhere job, had dropped out of school for a while just to make some money and pay some bills. And at said dead-end job, I bumped into a guy who was at the time a competitive bodybuilder. And we were both sort of fish out of water at this place of business that we worked. And after a 5-minute conversation, I had no idea who this little jack dude was, but he said, hey, do you want to go train with me after work? Me, having nothing to do and no life at that stage, I said, sure, why not? So he takes me to the gym. Here's a guy who hadn't really worked out hard since, high school maybe, sure, and not even that hard then. And he proceeds to just kick the living piss out of me in a back workout. And then I crawled to the gym the next day to meet him again, and we did legs. And then I wheeled myself to the gym the next day, and we did a 5-day split. And I remember having to take literally 3 days off because, I couldn't move. I laid at my house in the fetal position all day Saturday after the first week. But the thing was, it just appealed to me. I was hooked immediately. It's something that I wanted to do again. It was an immediate challenge that, I just 100% accepted and jumped into, and literally like that was entrenched in the lifestyle. And me being the inquisitive geek that I am, okay, I like this bodybuilding thing. Now what? Okay, learn everything you can about it. So not only was I pouring through all the bodybuilding magazines, like back then it was magazines, we had no internet. So
right, yeah,
buy the magazines, and in the back of the magazines, that's where all like the big premier coaches and a lot of the top pros would advertise seminars and clinics and programs and all these things. So again, me having no life and wanting to learn everything I could and be the best that I could, after a month or two of training and starting to see some progress, I just became obsessed with it and started going to clinics and seminars and traveling all over the Southeast and just absorbing everything that I possibly could. I was pouring through books every night and learning everything that I possibly could. But the other cool thing that happened during this time was, I speak a lot about genetics. Of course, genetics is extremely important. If you don't have the genetics for, bodybuilding or hypertrophy or growth, don't let that stop you, because you can still, ace the conditioning aspect of it. You could be the leanest guy there, the most shredded. You don't have to be the biggest guy in the room, especially in the amateur, ranks that we're in, or not you anymore, but me being an amateur in the NPC, I thought, well, I've got good genetics and I'm kind of a hyper responder, but I'm just going to freaking outwork everybody. And that's just the mentality that I had, because during that time back in the 90s, when I got into bodybuilding, I was told by literally.
Uh-oh.
And we're back.
Yeah, we're back.
Okay. So everybody that I spoke to at those seminars, when I met those coaches, when I bumped into those pros, when I, and everything that I read, literally at that point, and the guy that I was training with said, listen, if you want to do well at this, you have to eat like a freaking shark, basically from the time you wake up to the time you go to bed. And then we literally did this back then. we'd get up at 1 or 2 in the morning, eat 2 or 3 cans of tuna, drink a protein shake, go back to bed. I was literally ingesting 8 to 10,000 calories a day. Some people think I'm lying when I say that. I truly was. I didn't do that super long, but I did it for a while. I mean, that was my job, was to eat and train at that point. And I was training my ass off, and I started to respond. And people in the gym started to notice. And, long story short, over the course of about a year, I went from this 178-pound guy to, 207, 208, and fairly lean. And it just came on. And I realized I stumbled onto, by happy accident, that I kind of had the genetics for this stuff. Couple that with the work ethic that's necessary to do well at it, and the rest is history. At that stage, though, even though everybody around me was competing, I was going to all the shows, traveling to go to competitions, idolizing all of these top coaches and pro bodybuilders. I had zero desire to compete. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I was still so new. The idea of me standing on stage and, less than my underwear in front of 1,000 people just didn't appeal to me. But the analytical side of bodybuilding absolutely did. So I got into training and coaching, went and, pursued some certifications and got a job at a gym, and then that progressed and that progressed. And I started training people, and then started a training company, and then got recruited by some large Gold's gyms and managed those and trained there and all this stuff. So I just kind of grew in the industry until, I don't know, back in, what was it, 2000 and, I don't know, basically 2010 is when I opened my own company, my own gym, my own business. And then the internet started to really pick up with training and stuff. So that it started to progress and reaching out to people online. And then I went full-time online coach, along with having just a few people in my gym. That happened at right about the same time I decided to actually compete for the first time in 20 years in the industry. And that was back in 2014. So long story short, I'm getting off in the weeds now, but I'm trying to compress 30 years into a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
But so, I've become this bodybuilding geek, not competing at all, wanting to be on the other side as a coach and a trainer. After about a decade of that, I got a little bit burnout and wanted to explore other avenues of fitness and training. So I started doing a little bit more endurance sports. I was doing some cycling and some running, still training in the gym. And then after several years of that, I kind of got burnt out on that. I missed the bodybuilding lifestyle. I missed that whole attitude of it. So that's when, back in 2014, I thought, oh, hey, okay, I'm in my 40s. Let's try the competition thing and see how that goes. Well, when I got into the endurance training part, that's when I stumbled onto a paleo diet style lifestyle, where I greatly reduced the carbohydrate. The logic of that made sense. The whole ancestral health, thing that was going on made sense to me. And through delving through that, pool neck deep, when you start looking at, Paleolithic diets and ancestral health diets, the word ketosis kept popping up.
Right.
So I investigated that and went down the deep rabbit hole there, and all of it just started to make sense. So I started going a more ketogenic, ancestral health kind of a lifestyle. Felt amazing. The aches and pains I had from years of bodybuilding went away. The inflammation went away. My mental acuity increased. Everything just got better. So, I was a true, blue blood believer at that point. And then when I decided to compete in 2014, which I actually got on stage in 2015, I said, why can't I bring this with me, even though everybody says you can't? Which I never understood that either, because a lot of guys back in the, the early days of, professional bodybuilding were doing, ketogenic and low carb style diets with higher fat and higher protein. So, but when I started looking at the physiology of it, I thought, this totally makes sense, that you can definitely put on muscle with the absence of carbohydrate. That's been proven a lot, and many do that. And you can still train hard, for the most part. So when I married the two, bodybuilding with more of a ketogenic style nutrition program, I made a couple of adjustments. And as I say, every interview that I do, I developed a hybrid. And the hybrid meaning I still kept some carbohydrates in the mix, because through massive experimentation on myself and with other clients, I found that if we put a little bit of, faster absorbing carbohydrates right around the workout window,
Right.
where we knew that you were going to utilize those carbohydrates to blast through a super intense workout and use it as readily available, quick burning rocket fuel. The other cool thing about that is I learned that those carbohydrates would be protein sparing, meaning if I had a little bit of carbohydrate in my body around my workouts, I would use that as fuel. And by having that as my fuel, my body would spare amino acids and not utilize them for energy, but would use them to help with tissue growth and repair and cellular repair and all these things. So that just totally made sense. And then I used that same principle by doing weekly refeeds, where I would bring in some, cleaner carbohydrates like cream of rice, potatoes, white rice, nothing crazy. I didn't, don't confuse refeeds with cheat meals, as many do. That's a completely separate thing. But I would do these very structured refeeds. I would literally, in the early days, experiment with 100 grams at a time. And I would evaluate how that affected me. And then I got to the point where I found that my body worked well with carbohydrates in that capacity. And I was able to slam, on a gain phase, I could slam, 600 grams of carbohydrate and wake up the next day still looking peeled. So that kind of became the methodology and the ideology. So where it kind of went, haywire is, and I talk about it a lot, I'm kind of in the keto community as a hardcore training, bodybuilding meathead knuckle dragger dude.
Right.
And I tell people what I'm doing, and immediately I get chastised by people that I thought were my peers saying, oh, you can't eat carbohydrates. Oh, you don't want to put those around your workout. Oh, refeed, that doesn't work. You're not keto. You're a phony. You're a fraud. And I was like, how about you go fuck yourself? Okay. Because 85 to 90% of the time, I'm as freaking keto poster boy as you are. Right. And I utilize a little bit of carbohydrates at the right moment, at the right time for a certain particular purpose. And then those carbohydrates are gone. So I got labeled as the keto guy that's all into carbs. When if you looked at my day, carbohydrates still only represented about 5 or 6% of my total macros consumption. I'm over here pounding protein and healthy fats and eating meat and eggs and, like crazy. And I bring in a little bit of carbohydrates around my workout and everybody loses their fucking minds. So that's, but lately, I think the tide is turning a little bit because I see more and more people out there adopting that philosophy, experimenting with it. And they're like, whoa, this shit's working pretty good. I can still reap the benefits of a ketogenic style ancestral health diet, stay very primal, but then I can be very calculated with my carbohydrate intake and reap the benefits of that to maintain the highest level of muscularity and have the most, intensity in my training, which, as you know, is required to put on that muscle and sustain that muscle. Yes. So it just became the best of both worlds. And then somehow, one way or another, I kind of got known as the ketogenic bodybuilding guy, and everything kind of exploded from there. So that was a very haphazard, long, crazy way to answer your question. But
no, that was very awesome. I know you said, I know I've listened to your podcasts and came across your YouTube channel. I started low carb to lose the weight. That was off of one of the few doctors out there who ended up retiring because the medical professions turned into basically a pill pushing industry. Yeah. But he was one of the guys that straight up told me, I can either give you pills to take care of your problem, or I can tell you how to eat right to take care of your problems. And I have a horrible family history of people with diabetes, and my father had his first stroke at 48, and that's right around the corner for me, right? And I was like, well, crazy. Okay, let's do this dieting the right way, and we'll go from there. So he prescribed 100 carbs or less, and then told me eat things like basically the food that God put on the earth, not food that the processing plants put on the earth, right? So when I decided I was going to endeavor in this bodybuilding, I literally looked up YouTube and on Google ketogenic bodybuilding. and one of your channel came up, and then also the other gentleman, Robert Sykes, his channel came up, and just definitely a wealth of information out there. And what I thought was awesome, you have on your website the rules of engagement. And in that rules of engagement, it's fairly simple. You're talking, okay, when you have plenty of fat on your body, which, you know, I did, you can either, if you eat a whole bunch of egg yolks and everything else, the fat from that's going to be used as your energy source. Or maybe if you ate some more egg whites and some leaner cuts of meat, you'll use your fat, as you even put it, ass fat, you know, and it was like, that definitely helps out a lot more. And you get a lot of hate for that too. People are like, oh, some of these keto Kennys, they sit there and tell you that you practically got to be like 80% fat and like 10%, you know, protein practically. And I'm just trying to figure out where that mentality comes from, because it seems like the proof's in the pudding when you're using your own body fat to burn energy. It seems like a much better valuable source, as opposed to, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'd love to have 12 eggs, but.
Right. And the thing is, you know, I think that the keto, the older, you know, establishment keto community, you know, was taking a hard look initially at therapeutic keto, you know, which would be, you know, used back in the day for epilepsy and metabolic issues with children and stuff like that. And they found that through those, you know, modalities and therapies, that the higher fat, moderate protein, low to no carb worked well. When you talk about nutritional ketosis, that's a completely different endeavor. And I often say, if there's one phrase that's gotten me in trouble more than all, it is keto is not about high fat, it's about low carb. I say that all the time. And it just stuns me that people disagree with that, because that just tells me that you're giving information to people, and many of them for money, and you don't even have a clue about how this works down to its most logical, rational level. Because here's the deal, to reach ketosis, it's because of the absence of carbohydrate, or literally the absence of everything. You know, if I tie you to a chair and I pour, you know, fat down your throat for 9 straight hours and keep checking your blood ketones, they're not going to go up. The only way they're going to go up is if I reduce carbohydrate. Now, if I reduce the carbohydrate and I pour fat down your throat, it won't be long until your body will start generating ketones. But to think that it's the elevation of fat that brings ketosis is ludicrous. I mean, the entire notion is ridiculous. It's about lowering carbohydrate, because your body is either going to run on glucose or it's going to run on ketones, or a small combination of both. So in order to get the body to switch over and start burning ketones, or producing ketones to burn for energy, first you have to remove the glucose from the body. So you can be, you know, eating a very high protein diet and a, you know, moderate fat diet and still be in dietary ketosis. And the other thing is you get these zealots out there that think it's about the levels of ketones in the blood. I don't give a shit if you prick your finger and you're a 0.5 or a 3.0. If your body is producing ketones either minimally or maximally, you're still there. You're still getting the desired effect. And to take it a step further, I truly believe that it's not about being in ketosis super long term. It's about having the metabolic flexibility to go in and out of energy sources and utilize them efficiently, regardless of how you're eating. Now, you know damn well our hunter-gatherer ancestors, if they were walking down the plains, you know, and, you know, their primary staple was, you know, fatty meats from the animals they killed. That was the prize. That was the goal, 100%. And when they couldn't get that, then they would, you know, begrudgingly gather a bunch of bitter leaves and plants and shit that tasted like ass. But they would, you know, eat that because it sustained them until they could get out there and finally, hope to God, kill something so they could bring it back and consume it nose to tail. That was the prize. So, but when they were walking through the plains, if they stumbled onto a raspberry bush or a raspberry field that was ripe and in season, are you going to tell me they're going to say, whoa, better not have any of those. I don't want to spike my blood sugar and bump out of ketosis. They're going to be like, heaven, and they're going to start mowing down freaking blackberries like a fat kid with a Kit Kat. It's just going to go crazy. And I would justifiably say so. And, some of the hunter-gatherer tribes that still exist in the world right now, they eat very, very high protein, moderate to high fat, very low carbohydrate. But if they stumble onto a honeycomb, they're eating that shit all the way through. They're eating the honey, they're eating the comb and the small larva that's within the honeycomb, and they're going to eat it all until it's gone. And that's a fact. So, but they've got the metabolic flexibility to where if they are primarily in ketosis, they can utilize that efficiently. And if they switch over to burning primarily glucose for that amount of time, their body's going to work with that efficiently. And that's one thing that I learned through this process. And I've been doing this so long now, I can be in ketosis on almost no carbohydrate from 5 in the morning until all the way up to right before my workout. And if you're new to this, you may do some pre-workout carbohydrates and it may mess with you. It may spike your blood sugar. You may feel like crap. It just may not agree with you. But I'm to a point where I've developed so much metabolic flexibility that I can go with no carbohydrate for hours and then have a serving of cream of rice with some chicken. And all of a sudden it's just switches over and it's just a new energy source that I can utilize in the moment to get through the hardest freaking workout that I could possibly put myself through. And then when I finish that last repetition of said workout, I know that because of the amount that I took in, that shit's gone. I've used it. It's done its job. That, those carbohydrates have been burned. And now I go back to eating more high protein, moderate fat, lower carb. And then one day a week, I do a very structured refeed where I bring my carbohydrates up, I bring my fat down, I replenish my glycogen, and I can, run well off of that for several days after that refeed day. So yeah, again, it's a hybrid and it's about utilizing energy systems efficiently and having that metabolic flexibility to be an efficient running human being, regardless of what circumstance you're brought to. Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense, for sure. I know last year when we worked on my macros and in the morning, right before I hit the gym, it was a rice cake and some dimetized whey, and I would put that down, hit the gym. Yeah, within about 15 minutes of that going through my veins, I could definitely feel the difference as opposed to not having any carbs in my system for, said workout. And then rest of the day, anything that was going to be a carb would be in the form of like spinach or, lettuce or something like that. Not, mostly net carb kind of things to where my carbs by the end of the day, maybe 25 grams tops.
Sure. Yeah.
Didn't do any refeeds during the prep, with the exception of maybe once or twice of hitting some Jameson too hard and going, okay, I'll have that, so I'm not gonna lie, but I didn't really, because I had so much weight to lose. I really couldn't mess with the refeeds too much. But I
think that's a good point to make. Sorry to interrupt you.
Oh, no, gosh.
But this is going to sound bad in the beginning, but it has this really happy ending. As a coach that's worked with so many people and many, many competitors, when you started and you said, okay, here's what I am right now, and I want to do this show on this date.
Right.
I was like, oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's one of these guys.
Right. Yeah.
Thinks he can conquer the world, and I'll be honest with you. I was like, whew. And I thought to myself, he can do it if he does everything right. Mm-hmm. And if he understands that, he's going to shrink and the goal is to be shredded, especially for a first show, right? Because you're not going to have that muscle maturity and the amount of mass you may want. But if we can peel that down, then you can justify standing on that stage and do some damage. And it didn't take long, maybe a month, and started looking at progress pics and watching your macros and asking you about training and all that stuff, where I thought, okay, this guy may have it. He may have this to carry him through and make this happen. And you did have a lot of body fat to lose. So that's why I was never like refeed. I want to keep watching this meticulously, and your reports of I feel good, things are fine. I'm like, okay, let's hold off a little more. Let's keep burning through that body fat. Let's keep, growing into this diet. Okay. So, and now that we've kind of learned your body a little more, I think and you've been through this process. Right. I think we can be a little bit more liberal going into the next phase.
Right.
by bringing in a little bit more, but being very calculated, as I was in my early days doing this, figuring it out.
Right.
We may say, okay, let's try 100 grams on Sunday and see how you do.
Sure.
And then, shoot a pic Monday morning, nearly naked, because I don't want to see all of you. Okay. Right after you went to the bathroom, and let's evaluate that. And then tell me how you felt in the gym. Tell me about your pump. Tell me about your mental acuity. Then how did you sleep that night? So if you do that refeed on Monday with 100 grams, and we evaluate everything that happens on that Monday, from the time you get up, from the time through the time you sleep until you wake up on Tuesday morning, then we can get sort of a initial template of how your body responds. And then we can play with that as we go and make adjustments. So again, sorry to interrupt, but I wanted to really push that point that, some people come into this with unrealistic expectations.
Yeah.
You came into this with sort of an unrealistic expectation, but the difference is you had this to say, I'm going to do this. I'm going to eat every fucking thing this guy says. I'm not going to cheat. I'm not going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to kill this. And we had some ups and downs. Everybody does, just in terms of mindset. And oh God, and then I'd have to talk you off the ledge a little bit. And that was okay.
Right.
Because I knew that you had the mindset to push through and do it, and you did it, and you shocked, thousands of people for sure.
Thank you. That's very, very humbling. I know, and by the way, I remember that right before the show in Indianapolis, you had said to me that you were very proud of me and that you had your doubts. And thank you for not saying that earlier, because that might have messed with my head. You know what I mean? But something that—
Listen, fat ass, there ain't no way you're going to do this. Okay?
Right. Yeah, for sure.
So let's get a bottle of Jameson and have some fun, shall we?
Oh, I can definitely do that right now. Well, it's only 10 o'clock, but yeah.
And I thought you were Irish.
That's true. It's 5 o'clock somewhere, right? So something that I think folks need to know if they're going to get into this particular endeavor, when you're dieting down, I mean, holy cow, talk about an emotional roller coaster at times. I mean, I remember, I think I was talking to you one time, I was there in Myrtle Beach on vacation, and just—
Oh, I remember that.
Having a mental breakdown. And I'm thinking to myself, what the hell is wrong with me? I mean, I felt like I was like some 5-year-old girl who didn't get her pony for the birthday party and just being a little whiny bitch. It was bad. And then, I talked to you, and then you wrote back, like, it's basically part of the process, dude. This is, you're stepping into the big leagues. You're going to have to just suck it up. And, one of your slogans, or what do you want to call it, sayings, is validation through suffering. And you're going to suffer doing this sport, but it is worth it in the end. And you just got to have that mental toughness to go through it. Something that you see in the keto space is a lot of folks talking about how calories don't matter. And I know my first time when I did a competition at 2019, and I was that person that just paid an entry fee, and I showed up looking like complete ass. It was the most embarrassing moment, but it's over, and that put me into the space I'm in now. It was that whole calories don't matter as long as I'm keto. Where in the world did that mentality come from? Because it's just such garbage. I mean, calories have to matter no matter what diet you're doing.
You want to know, honestly, some people just believe that propaganda, and sadly it's being pushed by people who are, claim to be professionals or coaches or influencers or gurus or whatever. And to be honest with you, the reason why I don't have 1 million followers, and the reason I don't have, just going insane, and I know I'm in a niche, and I've accepted that, and I actually like it, is because what's going to be an easier thing to sell? Oh, if you just eat the foods that I recommend on my special program, my revolutionary new ketogenic program, you don't even have to count calories. You just eat the foods that I recommend, and body fat will melt away like magic. And, you do this in 4 payments of $39.95. And if you act now, in the next 2 minutes, I'll shave an installment off that easy pay plan and give you the bonus fat reducing thigh cream as a free gift. That's what they're doing. It's all marketing horseshit. And the sad thing is, dude, and I'll be honest with you, this does truly sadden me, even though some of these people lash out at me. It makes me sad when people will continue down a path just to preserve a marketing ideology. Like, you got those people out there that have been saying for years, okay, keto is, 70% fat and it's 30% protein and it's 10% carbs, fibrous carbs, or whatever. And that's how they built an initial following. And they cling to that rather than making adjustments to that ideology and saying, hey, I'm making a shift in the way that I do this. I'm making a shift in the way that I train people because of the data, the research, my personal experience. I just truly believe this is a better route. That's what I do. I'm going to tell my clients, and I'm going to tell you, and anybody that wants to listen to me spout on like I do, that I'm going to tell you what I truly believe in my heart of heart works. Now, would it be easier for me to sell a program if I said, eat all you want, don't worry about the calories, just, eat these foods and follow my program and it'll melt away like magic? Well, yeah, that would be really easy to sell. How do I sell my shit? Listen, man, you probably don't want to do this shit. It's fucking hard. You're going to suffer. If you want to be a freak, you're going to have to kill yourself. I'm telling everybody what that bodybuilder told me nearly 30 years ago before I went to the gym that first day.
Right.
And I still went. So there are unique people in this world, the people that I say, you probably don't want to do this because it's going to be the hardest thing you ever did. And the people that say, bring it, I'm in. Those are my people, and it really does make me sad when you have these people out there making a very, very good living. They're afraid to make that shift into what little adjustments might make it work better. And it's something I always say, like, there's some guys and women in the keto sphere that do compete, that call themselves bodybuilders. And they say, well, I did this and with this physique on 70% fat, and I didn't do any carb ups and I didn't do any. And I'm like, okay, well, here's the way I look at that. You did that way and your physique looked really good. Good job. Now, there's a difference between protecting an ideology and doing a good job, and then there's what's possibly optimal, okay? So if you looked that good doing 70% fat and 30% protein and having no carb up right before your show, well, when I look at those physiques as a longtime bodybuilding fan and coach, I think, wow, as good as you look with that, if we could make some adjustments, imagine how much better that guy or that woman would look. Right. They'd be more vascular, they'd be fuller, their skin would look tighter, there'd be more separation, there'd be more striations. This is the way longtime bodybuilding, addicts like me look at these things. So I look at these people that are protecting their ideology to make a paycheck, when I'm like, it's a shame, because if this guy made a subtle shift in that ideology, he would look even better. But he's afraid to say that because he thinks he's going to lose his edge in the industry and he's going to lose fans and followers, when typically I think the opposite is true. When you're real with people and you tell it like it is from your heart, based on your really, in the trenches hardcore experience, I think those people will appreciate you. And I'd rather have 10,000 followers with that mindset than a million people who are just all over the place.
Right. Yeah, that's a great point, because you're absolutely right. The holding on to dogma just for the sake of dogma, and it's not like you're sitting there telling somebody have like 5,000 carbs right before you get up on stage. You're saying have a couple of Rice Krispie treats, which was freaking awesome. And, watching these guys, they were slamming honey down. I was like, what the hell are they doing? And that was just, to get the muscles up. And it's not an everyday thing. You're up on stage one day, maybe 3 days a year. It's not that big of a deal. You know what I mean?
Absolutely not. It's the same back to that hunter gatherer that eats the honeycomb. I mean, these things are going to happen, and he or she is looking forward to that. And, there's a reason you're not going to completely reinvent the wheel. Now, we can go from an old wagon wheel to some high-tech, carbon fiber alloy super wheel that you put on a Ferrari. But at the end of the day, they're both freaking wheels. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
So the problem is everybody thinks that they need to reinvent the wheel rather than just having a little bit better version of the wheel they had. You're still going to spin the same, but this wheel might spin down the road a little more efficiently and a little faster and look a little better along the way. So, that's the key. I mean, it's so frustrating when all you really want to do is say, hey, man, I've got a couple suggestions that you might want to try that's going to make you from looking really good to fucking amazing. And they're like, no, I'm sticking to my ideology no matter what. I'm like, okay, you're one of those people. No problem. You know, lots of love, lots of respect. We're still friends. I don't hate you. But hey, that you be you. But at the end of the day, I wonder how they can deal with clients in that same manner as giving everybody the same cookie cutter approach when everybody's different. And back to the point that you just made, you know, you had 2 Rice Krispie treats and we did a pretty conservative carb up for you and it worked really, really well. I have clients that need 600 grams a day over 2 days to get full and tight. I have people that can't have any carbs at all that need fat and a caloric carb, not carb up, but you know, like introduce more calories the day before the show and a little bit more fat, and that makes them look full. And honestly, that's usually some women. So, you know, if I've got, you know, 30 people that I'm training to go on stage and compete, you know, I'm telling you right now, 28 of them are going to need a carb up before they go on stage. Now, I know there's somebody out there that may be listening to this going, no, they don't. No, that yes, well, yeah, they do. If they want to look their absolute best for that day. And it's okay, Brad. They're not going to die because they had a freaking, you know, rice cake 30 minutes before they go step on stage for what is potentially the most important fucking day of their life. Yes. We want them to be the best they can be. So don't, you know, put your ideology in your pocket and do what's absolutely best for the client that you're working with. That means you're going to have to experiment with some of this shit yourself, test the waters a little bit, and you may walk away a little surprised. And then there's the people that, you know, there are people out there pushing an ideology that when nobody else is looking, they're doing something completely different. Those people exist as well. Right. You know, if I have lost followers on Instagram all the time because I may post a cheat meal because my daughter baked some cupcakes and I'm in the off season or I'm in a gain phase. So I choose on a fucking Tuesday, you know, randomly to eat one damn cupcake. And then I put it on Instagram because my awesome daughter made these ridiculous cupcakes and I had one and it was amazing. Now back on track. I got people, I'll lose 6 followers for that. Be like, oh, he's not keto, you know, and I'm like, oh my God. Oh, okay, well, good riddance. If you're that entrenched in that ideology, then I'm probably not the best guy to be following that.
Right. And, you know, it's just one of those eat right, live right, die anyway. I'm not going to deprive myself, you know, on say like my son's graduation. I'm not going to deprive myself of like a slice of cake or something like that on that. And people that sit there and say that they're going to do that, you really, I mean, granted, it's not like cake is end all be all of existence, but you're really missing out on just some nice memories that you can have with your family and friends. And I'm not going to deprive myself of something like that. But like you said, it's a Tuesday. I'm going to have that cookie, you know, and your daughter baked it. What are you going to do? You're going to reject your daughter's offer for a cupcake? Bullshit. You're not going to do that.
I'm not competing for the Mr. Olympia. Okay. And as important as my competitions are to me, and I want to be the absolute best that I can be, not only for myself, but for my family and for my clients and anybody who gives a shit. You know, the thing is, in that cupcake or that cookie, if I'm 24 weeks out, those occasions are going to be rare. If I'm 16 weeks out, it's going to be even more rare than that. By the time I hit 12 weeks out, no cupcakes, no cookies, no matter what my gorgeous, awesome daughter makes, I ain't having it if I'm 12 weeks out. You know, you set your priorities based on what your plan is that you have in place throughout the year, and you stick to the plan. So I know these foods are going to be what's best for me. Every bite fucking counts. I'm logging everything. Every gram matters at this point, because when you're trying to take your body and make it the best genetically that it's ever looked since you've been alive, and it needs to be that way at 10 a.m. on a Saturday morning, 6 months down the road, you better do everything freaking right. Because if you stray from that, then you're going to be sitting backstage looking at yourself thinking, I'm not exactly what I pictured I wanted to be. And I could probably pick out 27 tiny moments in time throughout those last 24 weeks where you could have done this better, you shouldn't have done that, you shouldn't have done that, you shouldn't have done that. So I always say when you get to that 24-week period, that's just the timeline I think works best.
Right.
Every damn thing matters. When I look at the calendars of my clients, and I think I mentioned this in a podcast I did not too long ago, you get the people that just look amazing. Yourself, I've got 8 or 10 clients that are regularly posting on Facebook that just make these massive transformations and look amazing. When I look at I may spread out their calendar over 4 months. When you complete a workout on my calendar, that workout turns blue. Okay. That means you completed it. If it's not blue, that means they didn't do the workout. Okay. And my clients that do amazing, you see that number on every day of the calendar of the amount of calories they took in that day. And I can click that number and see what their macro separation was for that day. Now, the ones that look amazing, I can look at those calendars and it's a sea of blue dots.
Right.
Blue everywhere. I got to look hard to find that one workout they might have missed or that one cardio session they might have missed. And I look at that calendar over 4 months and every single day has a macros breakdown on it. They track fucking everything.
Yeah.
And then I look at the people that quit. I can't do this. This isn't working. And then I look at their calendar over the last couple months and it's maybe 30% blue, and weeks go at a time with no macros logged, weeks at a time they didn't do their cardio. And I'm like, oh yeah, it doesn't work, does it? Well, that's because it only works if you do.
Right.
So trust the plan, put in the work, and good things are going to happen every time.
That blows my mind that somebody, first of all, you're definitely not, your coaching program is not expensive by any means, but just to spend any amount of money to do that and then not do what you're told to do and then turn around and go, well, it's not working. That's got to be probably one of the more frustrating things of being a trainer, because you're putting yourself out there. And well, I guess that was going to be my next question. What some of the greatest challenges of being a trainer? And that at least sounds like one of them.
Something I had to learn, especially when I went online. It's a little bit easier. And I've used this phrase before with my clients in the gym. I always had the phrase, you're either an ass kicker or a box checker. The box checker client would come in right when their session's about to start, or a minute late. They don't put everything into it. They act like they don't really want to be there. They're just checking off a box. Like, okay, I dropped the kids off at school. I picked up the dry cleaning. I went to the supermarket. I saw my trainer. I went home, whereas the people who get the results come in 15 minutes early. They warm up. You can see them getting their mindset. They're drinking their pre-workouts or their EAAs or whatever. And they're ready, to eat lightning and crap thunder. And those people are the ones that get the results. It's not complicated. You got to put in the work. And the one thing that I had to learn, unfortunately, over the last several years is I can't let the people that aren't willing to do the work, I can't let that get to me. It makes me sad, but it used to be like I'd stress out over, like, why won't you do this? It works. Are you insane? Why don't you just do this? And you'll look amazing. You'll change your life. You'll make a wholesale change that will be meaningful for the rest of your life. And they just don't do it. I had to sit down and let go of that. My wife even told me, she's like, honey, you got to let it go. You can't take it personal. You can't save the world. And we know that. So you can only focus on the ones, that really truly want to be here and be a part of that. And you got to let the rest go. Every once in a while, you're going to get this one bad heifer that jumps the fence and leaves the herd. Let them go. You have to, because if you don't, you're going to drive yourself insane. So that's one of the challenges for me was that. And then the challenge of learning how to let it go, that everybody that comes onto my training team, I can't save them all. That some are going to jump that fence and leave the herd.
Right. What are some of the most rewarding things that has come about by becoming a trainer and a bodybuilder as well?
Bodybuilding, I've always been, we're back to different personalities, the people that jump the fence and leave the herd and the people that keep moving forward no matter how difficult the terrain becomes. And I've just been that person that, I love challenge. I feel like if I don't have something in front of me to focus on that's going to challenge me and potentially make me better, then I feel like I'm pedaling the other direction and falling backwards. And I feel empty inside. So that's truly what it is for me. It's always been an experiment. That's why I never competed for all those years when I was in the trenches training and coaching people, never had a desire to. And then when I finally did it, I thought, okay, that wasn't so terrifying. That was actually cool. And I even took myself to a place that I've never been before. And I like this. I like the challenge. And after every long prep, and mine are always 8 months, after every prep and every contest, you at my age, you think, okay, maybe that was it. Maybe it's time to chill out.
Right.
Just focus on work and business, just focus on family. And then I'll do that for a week or two and mull around a decision. And then I'll be like, no, it sounds crazy, but you know how you felt, in the last 4 weeks? I miss that. You'll get to a point where you somehow miss that because you know that you're putting forth an unbelievable effort that most people will never go through. And you just miss the taste of that challenge on your tongue. It's just the way it is. And then the other thing is, and this is going to sound corny, and I'm sorry, but when I did my show in 2015, here's a guy who had been in endurance sports for 10 years and was getting back into training. And I thought, okay, I'm going to put everything into this. And I went through that 8 months and I stood on stage in an NPC show, my very first show. I think I was 46 years old, like real fish out of water, in a very large class. And I placed second in the open heavyweight, and I placed second in the 40 plus for my very first show in the NPC. I was like, holy shit. And as cool as that was, it was almost surreal. I get backstage and I go pick up my phone and I have a text message from my wife that says, I love you, you're my hero. Well, I drop to my knees and I start crying like a 4-year-old girl that somebody just shot her puppy. I'm just back there like, oh my God. Because all the emotion from all that prep and all the sacrifice and all the suffering, and then it finally comes to an end, and then your wife drops that horse shit on you, I just fucking melted. And to be honest, that's another feeling that I wanted. And my kids hugging me and, people saying that, wow, you did it, and then now I want to do that, I'm like, okay, in some small level, aspiring to getting people to aspire to change.
Right.
So it's another avenue of being a coach. I found another way to maybe inspire people and let them know that it doesn't matter how old you are, it doesn't matter where you come from, and you're a perfect example of this. You can do this shit too, as crazy it sounds to you and people around you.
For sure. You said about that 4-week window. So I'll try to make it quick, but I know the last year in August, when we were in Indy, my wife and I, we went out walking around with Rocky, who's behind me, dog over here. We were sitting down just chilling for a second, and she says, I'm really proud of you. And she hadn't said anything. She really had to suffer with a lot of my mood swings. And so right when she said that, like with Nancy saying that to you, I just broke down and started crying right there. I was like, that's the first time I heard you say that, and she's like, well, of course I'm proud of you. I was like, well, I'm telling you, I know how challenging this was. But you're right. It's like those probably a long time. I mean, when you had me down to just around 1,300 calories, I really didn't like you much. And so I knew it was part of the process. I knew I had to do it. But when you're sitting there and you're looking yourself in the mirror and you just see a person that you didn't even know could exist. I was a Marine, for goodness sake, and I still didn't have 6-pack abs back in those days. You know what I mean? And here I am walking around, in the best shape I've ever been in. And then it was like the process now, the gain phase where those abs are seen, but you got to really squint. And, the striations in my shoulders are gone. It puts you in a different place. It's I'd rather be cutting all the time as opposed to bulking up. You know what I mean? So what are some of your future plans this year? Got any competitions coming up, or? You know what?
I'm going to give you an answer that you don't want.
Okay.
I'm in the middle, like I'm right here in making a couple changes into what this year is going to look like for me. And some things have happened leading up to this point in time that we're in right now that have made me sort of change the way I look at a few things. I'm sorry to be cryptic, but I've got my own damn podcast. So this week I'm recording 2 episodes, and one of those is going to be literally breaking down this year and what my plans truly are.
Okay.
So again, I'm sorry that I can't, express that to your listeners and followers out there,
Sure.
but and then maybe what we can do is, maybe in a month or so, I can come back on and after you listen to that podcast, we can say, okay, now that I know what the hell you're doing, asshole, let's talk about that. Okay.
Surely.
So yeah, I've got some very, very exciting things coming ahead, and there's been some weird twists and turns, but it's all very exciting. It's all very positive.
Nice.
And I'm looking forward to getting everybody caught up with what the hell's going on in my crazy world here in the next week.
That's beautiful. Well, where can people, my at this point, I think I got about 36 subscribers as of this recording. Where can they follow you on social media and, podcasts and the like?
Yeah, if you go to robgoodwin.com, ROBGOODWIN, that's got every freaking link on it. It's got my Instagram. We have a Ketogenic Bodybuilding Facebook group that is nearly 11,000 members strong, of a bunch of great people that you can jump in, join, and be a part of that conversation. So I invite you to do that. The link is also on my website. On that same website, I am a coach. That's what I do. So if you have an interest in that, check that out and let me know. And, one thing that I've really discovered in 2022, and I should have been more cognizant of it, is, the podcast. If I had to narrow down one thing that I do outside of coaching that has been my biggest success, and the thing that I'm most proud of, is when you finally realize how successful something potentially is, and that podcast has been so great. I've never had more, I haven't had such a great response to anything else than what I've had from the podcast. Daily, I get messages saying, love the podcast, please do more. This is great. And then, the company that I host my podcast site through, that distributes it to all the major people out there, that they'll send me a thing that says, oh, you've reached 40,000 downloads. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? I thought like 12 people would be into this. And then, oh, you've reached 50,000 downloads. And then I just got one that says you're at 60,000 downloads. And then, my guy that helps me with my website reminded me, he's like, that's just downloads, dude. Imagine all the people that listen to it that don't even download it. They just stream it. That's probably double. So I'm like, holy shit, people actually like listening to me spout on about all this shit. So if that's the case, then that's probably something I should continue to do, and maybe bring that to a higher level. So if you go to wherever you get your podcasts and just search Ketogenic Bodybuilding Podcast, it'll pop up. You'll see the black iconic KGB skull. Check that out, give it a listen. And if you like it, then great, I'm happy to have you. But that's something that I'm really going to be focusing hard on this year, is continuing to make that a better quality thing that people can digest on literally a weekly basis, so they always know what the hell's going on.
Outstanding. Rob, thank you so much for coming on board today. It's an honor. Really enjoy everything that you've done. I can't thank you enough for how your coaching has really put me in a better space, physically, mentally, spiritually. I mean, seriously, going from the guy that was on 2 blood pressure pills a day to a person that I'm in better shape now than when I was in my 30s. Thank you very much.
Oh, no, the honor and privilege is mine. I love having that opportunity to work with amazing people, and you're one of those. So
thank you.
I look forward to the future and growing our friendship and our relationship. So it's only exciting things ahead, my friend.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
All right, folks, I really hope you enjoyed today's episode of From Fatty to Natty Bodybuilder. Be sure to comment below. Be sure to like this video. Be sure to subscribe to this channel, and please share it with your friends. I want to thank Rob for coming on today. It's really an awesome interview. He's a great guy. He does a lot of good for the bodybuilding community and the ketogenic community and people just trying to get healthy as a whole. So thanks again, Rob, for coming on today. You guys have an excellent day. Take care.
stage, got the whole crowd bouncing. Talking about the king of kings.